When Nadine Dorries was in this job, we didn't all like what she said, but at least she stood by what she said and didn't flip-flop quite this much, did she? Hi, it's me again. And the new Culture and Media Secretary, she doesn't seem to stand by anything she said. She come out swinging against the BBC and said, we're going to look at new alternatives for TV licence fee funding. And then, she keeps bringing up the subject of the Queen's funeral, saying, we would never have got coverage like this from anyone else but our proud national broadcaster, and I wholeheartedly support the BBC. And then, so she was defending the BBC and the licence fee, and now you see this headline here. BBC licence fee is not sustainable, warns Minister with funding model set for the chop. I do have a sneaking suspicion that they're setting us up to get rid of the licence fee. And woo, you might think, but no, they're going to replace it with something worse. And the leading option at the minute is that household levy, where they throw it on your council tax. That seems to be winning at the minute. And unless they build in an opt-out for that, that's just wrong, right? You can't do that. But she is talking more and more about we're going to find an alternative for the licence fee's going. She's turned around a bit the last few weeks, and you see more and more stuff like this. And it is worrying, it's concerning. It's impossible for the BBC licence fee to continue in its current form, the Culture Secretary told MPs today. Speaking in front of the Digital Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee, Michelle Donnellan hailed the national broadcaster as a fantastic institution, but warned it would need serious reform if it was to be sustainable in the long run. You don't need to know more than that. The Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee boss, Michelle Donnellan, she thinks the BBC is a fantastic institution, which means she wholeheartedly supports the BBC. But she warns it will need serious reform if it's to be sustainable in the long run. So she doesn't believe the TV licence fee is a sustainable way of supporting the BBC. She's not going to make it go commercial because she thinks it's a fantastic institution, just the way it is. And being commercial will probably ruin it in her eyes. So what else is going to happen? They're going to find a new way of paying for the BBC that taxes us directly. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. Referring to licence fee payers as subscribers, Ms. Donnellan said this afternoon, it is undeniable that the licence fee is not a long-term sustainable model in its own right. And we know that because obviously subscription figures are going down. Well, it's been in force for quite a few years now, Michelle Donnellan, the old licence fee. So it's been sustainable for that amount of time. And I've said it so many times on this channel, I'm getting bored of saying it now. They get 3.7 billion quid a year just from TV licence fees. And there are countries out there that have a GDP of less than that, who manage to build infrastructure, roads, hospitals, pay for teachers. The BBC can't run a media organisation on that money. Something is up. And they're always banging on about wanting more money. And the licence fee's frozen. I can't see it going up anytime soon. We haven't got time now to get rid of the licence fee, really, before the next charter. There's no way you could say to the BBC now, it's coming up to 2023 and the licence fee charter expires in 2027. They're going to need more years. They could knock it out in 6 months if they wanted to, but they wouldn't, would they? That's the way business like that works. If you said to the BBC tomorrow, right, there's no more licence fee charter, you've got to go commercial, you've got to make your own money, do whatever you want to do, we don't care, but there's no more licence fees for you. We haven't got enough time to implement that. We need more time. And they'd get another 10 years, wouldn't they? But the way she's talking is that, the licence fee charter is going to expire in 2027, but by then, we'll be taxing the people directly to pay for the BBC anyway, so they won't need the licence fee charter. And then we can say, we got rid of the TV licence fee. But no, you're just paying an extra 159 quid a year on your bloody council tax, which is already too expensive. It's part of our cultural fabric and society. It's part of our cultural fabric and society, and we saw firsthand when our late Majesty the Queen passed just how much people relied on the BBC to allow them to mourn and come together. So if the BBC didn't exist, would we have not got to see the Queen's funeral? No other channel could possibly do that. No, Channel 4 couldn't do that. Sky 1 couldn't do that. ITV couldn't do that. No, only the BBC was capable of bringing us together in that manner. Do you honestly think if the BBC didn't exist and ITV did the full coverage of the Queen's funeral, they were in charge of the whole thing, do you think ITV would have shown ads during it? Of course they wouldn't, out of respect. It would have been non-stop coverage, the same as the BBC had done. You wouldn't notice any difference at all. That is not reason for the BBC to exist. I'm sorry, it's not. Speaking about the idea of the licence fee remaining in place, she said, it would be impossible for the review to come back with that analysis because unless you were increasing the licence fee to a great deal per household, which would further drive down subscribers, stop calling them subscribers, then I can't see how you would get to the figures that are required without topping up that funding somehow with another initiative. The answer cannot simply be continue with the licence fee if we want to protect the BBC. I could not agree more. I've said it so many times that the licence fee is the problem with the BBC. It holds them back and it slows them down and it gives them no incentive to improve. Being commercial gives you that incentive. So ITV again, for instance, right? If ITV started making complete tat, and they're guilty of that somewhat, but they do make some big shows, right? If ITV started making shows and putting out shows all day that no one wanted to watch, how long would they survive for? Because no advertisers want to pay for advertising when there's no one viewing the adverts. So they're incentivized. ITV are incentivized to make better programming that more people want to watch because the more viewers means more advertisers, means more money. They're incentivized. The BBC doesn't have that incentive, so they can make absolute dross. The boss of the BBC himself has said he doesn't chase viewers. He's not interested in it. He doesn't have to, because no matter what they do, they could just put 24-hour-a-day repeats on all their channels, which they're not far off anyway. They would still get 3.7 billion quid a year. They don't have to try. So yes, the BBC cannot continue with the licence fee. Of course they can't. It needs changing, but making it a tax still doesn't give the BBC the incentive to be better and to do better. There is only one way forward, and it's let them make their own money. There is no other way. But she's obviously, had a good chat with the bosses at the BBC who were saying, look, we've got a £300 million black hole this year. If it wasn't for the licence fee charter, we'd need to charge 405 quid a year for our services to the people. And Michelle Donovan's like, oh, that's a big deficit there. Maybe we'll find a way to get you some more money. No, they don't need more money. They need to handle the money they have better. If you can't run this company on 3.7 billion quid a year, then Michelle Donelan needs to find somebody who can run that company for 3.7 billion quid a year. ITV, I know ITV keep coming back to it. They may not have all the radio stations and a lot of the online stuff that the BBC has, but they managed to do it all on a turnover of 1.4 billion quid a year. And the BBC cannot make it happen on 3.7 billion. And that doesn't include the commercial revenue they make from BBC Studios and all the other stuff that they do. It's unsustainable because they're spending too much. That's why it's unsustainable. Yeah, I do fear that we're being set up for a new household tax here, or it going on your payslip or something. I don't think the outcome of this is necessarily going to be positive. And the best way to fight that is to cancel your telly licence and persuade as many people as possible to cancel their telly licence. Let them know that you're not prepared to directly fund the BBC. The bigger that number, the bigger the movement. That's the way I see it. I don't know. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because that way, hopefully, I'll see you in another video again soon. Ta-da!